As Judy said, I'm Kirsten Hoffman. I am part of the Maryland Native Plant Society's Legislative Advocacy Committee. We have been working on legislation the last few years with some successes, which is wonderful to see. But we've had a lot of members ask us, could you give us a little bit more about legislation? We would like to learn how this system works. How can we get involved? So that is why we came up with these 3 sessions. Tonight's session is just really an overview of some of what the committee does and how the process works. At the November meeting, we'll dive a little more deeply into the Maryland General Assembly, where we do most of our advocacy. And then in January, at the member meeting, we will hopefully be able to tell you some good bills that are at the General Assembly, because this session will have started by then. So if things are out there, we will kind of go through. So why do we do advocacy? Mainly at this organization because it fits with our mission. If we are trying to promote and protect native plants and their habitats, their advocacy is one of the tools that we use. I'd say the other big tool we use is education, and that's what we are mostly doing through talks like tonight's talks, through our monthly talks, through our field trips, through our publications. We do a lot of education. But there are times where legislation can actually be super helpful. And so we have started getting a little bit more into advocacy in order to do that, to kind of help achieve our goals. Some of this advocacy goes directly with native plants and habitats. One of our big bills in 2023 of establishing the Maryland Native Plant Program fits perfectly with the mission. But we do things that are a little indirect too. We have supported various bills that are limiting pesticides or doing various things trying to make sure we're protecting our pollinators. We've worked on bills that deal with plastics. The bottle bill is still out there. That's been something we have been supporting, trying to get that extra plastic out of our environment. Last year, we worked on a bill trying to phase out gas-powered leaf blowers. So some of these things are not exactly our mission, but they touch our mission, and they're important. And there are things that we advocate for as well, because there are a lot of environmental bills out there that we choose from. So where do we advocate? At all levels of government. So definitely federal, state, and local. We work at all various levels. The majority of our work certainly is at the state, but we do federal and local, which is typically county advocacy as well. At the federal level, it often is another group that is reached out to us and is asking for our help for a sign-on or some kind of letters of support. Recently, if anyone came last month and saw Ed Toth talk, his group, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Seed Bank, was looking for money from the federal government, and that was something that we wrote letters and definitely advocated on his behalf to try to help him secure those funds. Local advocacy is often in support or opposition to county ordinances. This stuff comes up here and there. And I'd say mostly we've been in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, Montgomery County, and that's advocacy at the county level is most effective when you have a resident of that county. And that just happens to be who is kind of involved with our advocacy committees right now. But we see certainly opportunities as we begin to add local chapters for those local chapters to be in touch with what's going on in the counties where they are. And they can kind of bring issues to the advocacy committee, and then we can work with them to go and advocate in their counties. So hopefully we can broaden this and really hit some issues that are important to us. So state advocacy is a little different than federal and local in the timing. Federal and local are all times of the year. It's just when things come up. State advocacy is very specific. The Maryland General Assembly has a very specific schedule, and that's partly why we're doing this talk now, because this is in the preparation time for the Maryland General Assembly session. So the Maryland General Assembly is a little different than most states in that they only meet for 90 days a year. In 2026, this will be from January 14th to April 13th. I know that looks more than 90 days, but I think they count weekdays, even though when the session is so short, when the legislature is in session, I think that our senators and delegates are working almost 24 hours a day. They very seldom even get a break. The time of year we're in now, this kind of fall moving into winter, is when the senators and delegates are preparing bills. So this is the time that advocates that want to put a bill out are contacting, looking for sponsors. They're writing bill language. They're pulling support together because they need to get those bills in by the end of the year or in January pretty much in order for the bills to have a chance of making it through this very short session. And there are a lot of bills. I just pulled the numbers for 2025. There were over 1,000 bills introduced in the Senate and over 1,500 bills introduced in the House. So if you think about all of those bills tend to be not too long because it's easier to pass something short, but each of our senators and delegates could have to go through over 1,000, 1,500 bills in a 90-day session. So it is a lot to get their attention and get them educated. So it's a start early process to make sure that you get all the information you need to have a chance for passing your legislation. So just an overview of what type of advocacy roles we engage in. The biggest role there is at the top, where you can actually write a bill and or be the bill advocate. The Maryland Native Plant Society has done this twice in the last few years, where we have joined a coalition with a few other organizations, and we helped to write the Maryland Native Plant Program Bill in 2023, and we wrote the Biodiversity and Agricultural Protection Act in 2024, and we're lucky enough to have both of those bills pass. So we were the main advocate, meaning that we worked closely with sponsors, we organized supporters, we went to Annapolis, testified, et cetera. So that is almost a year's worth of involvement to put a bill together and to be engaged at that level. It is a lot of work. So often we are doing something a little bit less intensive than that. Sometimes we just provide input on a bill. We might be somewhat involved. We've given some language, some advice, but we're not the main advocate. And that I just mentioned, the Clean Air Quiet Communities Act was the gas-powered leaf blower phase-out bill that unfortunately didn't pass. And I believe Judy's been involved with vernal pool bills for the last couple of years and still working on those of kind of giving input and giving our expertise to the bill. And the last, which is what we do most typically, is just provide testimony. So we'll go through the list of bills, we'll get contacted about them, we will attend committee hearings, we will write testimony, and then we'll encourage our members to express their support when bills come to the House and Senate, full House and Senate for votes. So once your bill passes, you celebrate and you wish the work was done, but it is not. There is a long legislative tail that comes after the passage of a bill, which we have learned after the last two bills that we have really worked on extensively. Many bills have, well, they all have an effective date, which is a few months to several months after the bill is passed when the session ends. Many will set up committees for implementation. Judy and I still participate in the Maryland Native Plant Program Implementation Committee. It's scheduled to have its last meeting in December, but there is always still work that can be done. Some bills, like the invasive plant bill, when it was originally passed in 2011, they set up IPAC, the Invasive Plants Advisory Committee, and that is a standing committee that reviews invasive plant assessments. So that is a committee that continues on to this day and will continue on into the future. So in addition to committees or implementation groups, some bills require regulations to be written. So if the bill is like something in Department of Ag, like the invasive bill, and it requires extra language in order to implement it, then there are regulations after the fact. And that is another potential complication that advocates need to stay involved and read the regulations and make sure they're in agreement with the intent of the bill. One other thing that we've realized that can be challenging is the annual budget process. So each year in the legislature, the governor prepares a budget and the House and Senate prepare a budget, and then they have to reconcile them. And we have had the experience that a program that you thought was safe all of a sudden got their budget zeroed out. So even something after you pass the bill, it's enacted, and then it can kind of fade away if the money's taken away. So it is something we always have to be checking and be aware of, even after a bill is passed, to keep track of. So you continue to advocate. We've also seen agencies might not understand the bill as much as we might understand the intent or slow to develop it, but often they have limited resources. we've seen the invasive plant bill. Part of the reason we passed and we wanted to amend the bill was to get MDA to actually move forward on it. They never had staff. So they have limited resources, and that can keep a bill from really being implemented properly. So that's my quick talk. Next month, we're going to do a deep dive into the MGA and follow a bill through. If anybody remembers, I'm just a bill. So we will follow the bill through the MGA, just like that song followed it through the federal process. We'll dive a little bit more into testimony, so we can talk about how we have organizational testimony that we submit on behalf of MMPS versus individuals, and what your role can be. So thank you all.
Any questions?
So Mark asks, what is the process to have native plants added to roadway median strips?
That's a little beyond the scope here. There has been a bill, if I can remember, I can't remember too many details, by the state that dealt with median strips on state highways or road edges on state highways. I'd have to go back and read it, though. I don't know exactly. I know they've been updating their seed mixes to have them be more native plants and get native plants out of the seed mixes that they're using. But we'd have to go back and look up, because it was a couple of years ago that they passed that legislation.
And then Ginger asks, where does ag stand with removing invasive plants from commerce?
Ag is working on it. So part of the legislation that we worked on in 2024 said that any plant that had been a tier 2 plant, so those 13 invasive plants that were in the nurseries had warning signs or a plant with caution sign. Those are being assessed right now. They will finish being assessed by the end of the year. And the hope is that most of them, since they were assessed previously under the old assessment system as invasive, will come out as invasive. Then they will go to the Department of Agriculture, to the Secretary, for final approval after IPAC has signed off on them. And then there is a phase-out period. And right now, the phase-out period is a little up in the air because Ag needs to write the regulations for the bill. So the traditional phase-out would have been, once a plant was prohibited, there would be 2-year phase-out for an in-ground woody and 1 year for all others. So if barberry, which is one of the plants being assessed, it's invasive, it is declared as a prohibited plant. I'd say most of the time that would be in ground, maybe not. So it's going to have a 1 to 2 years that nursery could continue to sell until their stocks were exhausted. The goal for IPAC is to assess in 2026 to assess 20 more invasive plants, and hopefully those, if they come in with a high enough score, they will go to the Secretary, be prohibited, and then start that phase-out period. But we're waiting on final regulations, so we don't know exactly what the phase-out period is going to be. We hope it's still going to be the 1 year, 2 year.
Is there any process for plants that are behaving suspiciously like they're going to become invasive? They are starting to become invasive, and they haven't amassed the background information that would say, yes, this is invasive, it's all over the place, but there's some that are headed that way. Is there a process for that?
Yeah, so we commonly refer to those as EDRR species. I think that's what you're meant. So yes, it's not really different as any other. It needs to be brought to IPAC. It needs to get in the queue to be assessed. And then it would either go through the status assessment that we're now using. And if it is not really present in the state, it goes back to our previous risk assessment, where it's like, what is the risk of it becoming invasive? And yes, it could be prohibited based on that. So it's really just making sure it gets to the attention of IPAC, and so that can get, because we're right now working on how many plants and which plants to assess next year. And there's a lot to do.
Yeah, this is one that I'm seeing spread in natural areas, starting to show up in places that you would not expect it to, but it's still like.
Ooh, what is it?
Thankless Nebraska. Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes. That might be one that we're looking at next year. It might be one, yeah.
And then we have one more question from Daryl Alexander. And his question was, are there any opportunities for MNPS to be actively involved in the regulatory process? And some of that, I guess, was addressed in the presentation, but Daryl, I think if you're interested, you should probably contact Kirsten or Judy, or we also have one other person. Mark was saying that he actually would like to be involved in drafting legislation for native plants to be included in new residential and commercial developments and along median strips. So once again, contact Kirsten, contact Judy.
If you write an email to info@mdflora.org, it will
You'll
get
get
to
it.
us.
So that'll
Yeah.
work too. info@mdflora.org.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to talk to a particular person on the board, put our names in that, please.
When we would love the help. We always welcome new members that want to get involved and help us advocate.
Thank you, Kirsten.